Good afternoon, traders. This is Christian from Tribeca Trade Group with the end of the day market recap, and I have in front of me a chart of the S&P as the S&P actually did a little bit of a reversal today. Again, with this line that I have on my charts, could not break out. We were up the majority of the day, and then afternoon we kind of turned that corner lower. To finish down, I have SPY down about 90 basis points, but the future adjustment here is down about 65 basis points. So for the majority of the day, we can kind of go into where we kind of turn that corner. Yeah, right around 12:30ish, we started to go down here, and sometimes this looks like a pause in the action, but we continue to ride this Bollinger Band down. So what kind of drove the volatility today? Well, it wasn't the usual culprit. We had really a interesting deviation in sectors today. I personally love it when we have days like this, when you have a huge separation. So oil did its thing today. Oil started the day, around flattish, and then once the pit opened there, pre-market, kind of just went off to the races today. Just more rumors, possibly some production cuts. This time was the rumor, but nevertheless, off to the races, finished very close to the highs of the day. What was interesting today, so I'll get to the ones that were not so good, but if you look at XOP, this started to sell off. Actually, the one that was interesting was XLE. XLE kind of finished on the lows, down 1%. So energy names did not follow crude today. I find this extremely interesting. So let's talk about the good first, and then we'll get to the bad. XME, which is metals and mining, up 4% today. Part of that as well has to do with gold. Gold finished the day up 1.3% today. So people thought, I heard some people thinking that gold was going to kind of turn over. They thought it gave a signal on Friday. But I continue to see buying in GLD in the actual metal in the ETF in regards to seeing more inflows. I actually got a question or two about that on Twitter. They said, "Wow, really more buying in gold considering what happened on Friday?" And sure enough, it's up 1.3% today. GDX, another big winner today, up 3.7%. So XME again up 4.3%. And then you've got a couple, mixed sectors in here. You had telecom did really well today, up 1.5%. This was pretty. Now going to the other side, what did very poorly today was biotech. And, this may have to do with VRX. VRX headlines out this morning. We did see some put buying actually on Friday. I did not take that signal, but, this is what's been going on with VRX. They're now the headline that came in the last hour, which somebody must have known this because it's been weak for the last 2 days, but it looks like the SEC is investigating Valiant. But if you look at XBI, the two biotech ETFs, XBI and IBB, essentially finishing on the lows of the session. Let's bring this up. Yeah, very close to breaking here. It doesn't look like it did it quite, but I thought I saw some pre-market movement, maybe in IBB. But XBI was down 3%. That's the ETF with more of your small cap names in it. IBB has your larger cap names, getting a little bit of bid, a little aftermarket activity here, but also finishing down 2.8% today. So my thought today was, while this was happening, especially around 12 o'clock, it was already weak for the beginning of the day, and then took another leg lower. And I actually put on Twitter, I said, the biotech eventually will bring the Qs down, especially when you have a day when you're down 3%. So I think that led to a lot of the volatility. The other interesting thing today, KRE was never strong at all today, was very weak, even though energy was rallying and the market was up. It did come back and then actually went all the way back and took out the lows as the market kind of sold off in the last hour. But again, banks just seem like, there's a different excuse for them every day. I understand bonds were strong today. TLT was up about 40 basis points. So when bonds go up, yields go down. That's not good for banks. However, you would think they would get a little bit of a push with energy, some fear coming out. The more energy goes up, the more crude goes up, the less of that fear takes place. And you can see that happening in HYG. HYG, huge day today. This is the high yield bond ETF, up over 1% today, and wasn't phased at all by the end of day sell-off in the S&P. It continued to go up. There were some buyers present. I did pick up on this around 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock today. I noticed that there was a rotation. I noticed that IEI, which is Treasuries, so is TLO, so is ITE. Bloomberg picked these up all as looking like the print. The large print went below the bid, so it looks like somebody sold a decent amount of Treasury ETFs and bought into a lot of high yield prints. So this is a theme that we've been seeing not just today, but for the last week. I've been talking about this. Another thing I've been talking on Twitter is seeing a lot of inflows going on in high yield bonds. This has basically been happening since crude has rallied from the lows. We've seen investors go back into the high yield market. So that's happened. Let's see if I still have that up from this morning. But here you could see, this does not count today's, what I've been going over, and as far as today's activity. Let's see if I can brighten this up. There we go. So $1.1 billion going back into high yield bonds. This was on Friday. Most of this is HYG, but a couple other ETFs are making that up as well. So, and also here, investment grade B, this is all how Bloomberg classifies the data, but, a good chunk of money going back into corporate bonds and high yield bonds at that. And then today, these were the blocks that went up around 12 o'clock in the afternoon. HY, and they didn't, this wasn't just one particular ETF. It was HYG, JNK, and SJNK, which is actually a shorter duration high yield bond ETF. So they went after these in pretty decent size. So just kind of gives a sense, so why was high yield up? Well, because there's a lot of buyers present, and I think this move up in energy, while energy shares actually underperformed today, the high yield bond group is doing very well. So what else was on that I noticed today was a little bit unusual or noteworthy? Not high yield bonds. The VIX climbed back over $20, back up to 20.55, closing close to the highs of the session. I do find this particularly interesting whenever it's around the 20 range. Anything under 20, I kind of feel a little bit more comfortable getting back into the market, taking longs. When it's above 20, just shows that there's a little bit more volatility in the system. IWM also, let's see where IWM finished today. Small caps still outperformed. So, I'm not really completely convinced that we're going to roll over yet. I want to see actually IWM start to underperform. In the last 2 weeks, small caps have actually outperformed. If they start to go and start to trail the market again, then I think we're in that risk-off mode. So that's something to continue to watch, is this IWM outperformance. Keep in mind that IWM, is a much different looking chart than S&P, and has rallied back from very oversold territory. But a lot different looking chart. Notice that it did get to the top of value. So, you could take a look at this for IWM. I would say, what is this level here? 103.80, maybe something to watch today. If it stalls out here, it could give an indication that we may roll out here, but still a little bit too early to tell that. What else am I watching? The trade of the day in terms of unusual option activity, not IBM. AXP, great trade today. I recognize this one right away this morning. And a great mover. Let me bring up the right chart. Here's the 5-minute chart. And it looks like I got out of this at the appropriate time this morning, but right around this level. So there was a couple of things that happened with AXP this morning. Warren Buffett was being interviewed on CNBC. They asked him about AXP. He said, I'm not really changing my position in it. So he kind of just reiterated what he's been doing in it. And then there was some financials regarding Citi is buying the Costco unit brand card portfolio. It looks like So American Express is in this pack to sell Costco. So, you know, you don't always have to know what this exactly means in terms of how much it's going to affect the stock. Just kind of keep these headlines in mind. And then when you see, here is the activity in AXP this morning, you know, a really nice sizable order in AXP for very short term, so high risk, 55 calls bought, opening print, sweep opening print in AXP. I went into this particular trade, and I got in a little bit, paid up a little bit more than paper got in for 66 cents. I paid a nickel more. I paid 71 cents and took my final target at around, I believe it was $1.21 today. So really a nice trade. That was the unusual option trade of the day, and very nice winner. So you could be, and this was literally about an hour of work. You almost doubled your money in this particular trade. So really nice looking trade. Let's just take a look at what S&P futures are doing for the rest of the day. Excuse me, towards the end of the day. Not much, but trending right around the lows of the session. So interesting market activity today. You know, going into tomorrow, continue to watch what the overnight markets are going to do. China did make that announcement after their market was closed regarding reducing the reserve ratio by 50 basis points. They did that at 5 o'clock in the morning, and that's why our markets rallied from that point on. But Shanghai finished down, I believe, close to 3% for the session. So something to watch. I think overnight markets could be interesting tonight, as well as Europe tomorrow. So that's it for me today. And have a great evening, and I will see you tomorrow.